to be the woman that she is today.
Wow.
You can come out of tragedy and difficult circumstances two ways, bitter or better. And it's really your choice.
Why did she keep her illness secret for so long?
She was very protective of her family and her close friends, and I don't think that she wanted people to start feeling sorry for her.
Cole, I like your boots.
Excuse me, guys.
Hey, Natalie, looking good.
Are you
gonna be watching the Oscars?
I came from Anaheim.
No one knows exactly what happened inside the Beverly Hills mansion on the last night Natalie Cole ever stayed there. All that's known is that a piercing scream tore through the night from the upstairs bedroom, followed by a silence that would last for years. The 4,000-square-foot house, once filled with her music, tears, and collapses, was suddenly locked up tight, left to be swallowed by moss and whispered rumors clinging to every wall. Natalie Cole, daughter of the legendary Nat King Cole and winner of 9 Grammy Awards, was no longer a star inside that house. She was a mother battling addiction, a child who had never healed from the loss of her father, a voice that once moved the world but couldn't save herself. And today, we're stepping inside that place. A house that has remained silent yet still holds dozens of secrets never spoken aloud. Tucked away on a quiet street in Beverly Hills, the 4,650-square-foot mansion Natalie once called home was purchased in the late 1990s for over $1.3 million. It was the first house she ever owned in her name, paid for entirely with her own money, earned after recovering from addiction, a declaration of independence from a woman who had once collapsed but refused pity. The house had 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a jade granite-tiled swimming pool, and a small recording studio in the basement, where she recorded unreleased tracks just for her father. Every corner of the house bore Natalie's mark: velvet purple drapes, a French-style fireplace, and a portrait of Nat King Cole hanging in the entry hall, where she would pause every morning to whisper, "I'm still here." But it was in those seemingly safe rooms where she fell apart again and again. Some nights, she would wake up disoriented, unsure of where she was. Once, she screamed in despair while her son lay motionless in the pool, skin pale and lips blue from choking on water. A neighbor remembered seeing her run out to the car in the middle of the night, hair disheveled, face panicked, blood smeared down the sleeve of her nightgown. No one dared ask. All they knew was that she never spoke of the incident again. Then one day, every sound in that house simply stopped. Weeds overtook the yard, and the rusted mailbox still held an unopened letter dated 2016. The electricity had long been cut, yet the neighborhood watch sometimes saw the upstairs bedroom light flicker on and off, as if someone was still living inside. The basement studio had been sealed with a metal door, and on the wall inside, scribbled in marker, were the words, "I'm still here, Daddy." The house meant to mark a fresh start had instead become a prison for everything Natalie tried to forget. Every window pane, every brick seemed to echo the sounds of unreleased demos, of unspoken apologies, and of that final scream before she left the house for good. And it is here that the journey begins, backward through time, to understand why a voice that once stirred the entire world never found peace for itself. And perhaps to truly understand why Natalie Cole trembled behind the luxurious walls of her Beverly Hills mansion, we must return to where it all began. A different house, one where she was not allowed to be weak, not allowed to be sad, and never once asked, "Are you okay?" Natalie Maria Cole was born on February 6, 1950, in a lavish mansion in Hancock Park, known by many as the White House of Black America. Her father was Nat King Cole, a living icon of the United States, the first black man to host his own TV show, a voice that tore through the racial barriers that generations before had never dared to touch. Natalie grew up surrounded by velvet gowns, Steinway pianos, prestigious guests, and Christmases with full orchestras in the living room. But none of that, no spotlight, no fame, no luxury, could replace the one thing she craved most: her father's presence. Nat King Cole was rarely home. He toured across the country, filmed in New York, signed contracts in Chicago. From a young age, Natalie was used to eating dinner beside an empty chair and kissing her father through a television screen. So when he died of lung cancer on February 15, 1965, just 9 days after her 15th birthday, Natalie's world didn't just shatter, it lost all meaning. At the funeral, she didn't cry. She stood by the casket, clutching the hem of her dress, eyes locked on the face of the man she once called everything, and whispered, "You never heard me sing." After that day, the house became unrecognizable. Her father's portraits hung on every wall, yet Natalie could no longer bring herself to look at them. Her mother, once gentle and affectionate, grew distant and harsh, as if Natalie were somehow to blame for everything that had fallen apart. Every step, every word, every note she sang was compared to her father. Slowly, she stopped being a daughter and became a shadow, a flawed replica that no one wanted to acknowledge. Trapped in a space filled with pressure and unspoken expectations, Natalie began to distance herself from her family, and eventually to run. In college, instead of studying classical music like her mother wished, she threw herself into rock. She wore her hair wild, dressed in leather, smoked marijuana, and one night, in the dorm bathroom, she tried hard drugs for the first time, not to rebel, but because she wanted to feel nothing. No more pain, no more comparisons, no more father. And perhaps anyone could have guessed it. That rebellion wasn't just a passing flare. It was the spark that would quietly ignite a fire waiting ahead. From that point on, the mansion she had grown up in, with its grand pianos and tea-time gatherings of dignitaries, became a place she never wanted to return to. It was no longer a home, but a museum of a past that never truly belonged to her. Did you know what kind of pressure Natalie Cole had to endure before she could prove herself? Before stepping onto the first big stage of her life, Natalie sat alone in a small dressing room backstage for a long time. She didn't look in the mirror. She didn't rehearse a single note. She just stared into her hands trembling, not knowing if people had come to hear her voice or to see whether Nat King Cole's daughter sounded anything like him. Since childhood, she had been called names that never belonged to her. Jazz royalty's daughter, an echo from the past, an unfinished copy. No one had ever asked what Natalie wanted to sing or if she even wanted to sing at all. She only knew that if she stopped, people would be disappointed. And being a disappointment, that was the one thing she was taught never to be. While her peers were still in school, falling in love, making mistakes, and getting back up, Natalie had already stepped onto a stage carrying a last name that turned any misstep into a headline. Every time she sang, people compared her to her father. Every time she paused, they'd say, "Nat King Cole's daughter shouldn't be so fragile." And little by little, the spotlight became a burden. Her voice became a chain. The very light that illuminated her began to blind her from seeing who she truly was. Then came Inseparable, the album that lit up 1975 and turned Natalie Cole into a sensation. Critics praised her as a worthy successor to her father, and crowds flocked to her shows, eager to hear a voice so powerful it left rooms breathless. But while the world basked in her glow, no one knew how much Natalie had to steel herself just to keep walking down a path she was never allowed to leave. Being Nat King Cole's daughter meant never making mistakes. Being a singer with a voice hailed as a national treasure meant never being tired. And Natalie began to fear the very light shining down on her. Inside her was a rebellion long suppressed. From her teenage years, she had stopped believing in the perfect family that the world admired. Her father's death left a void no one could fill, and her mother's coldness made her feel like she was never allowed to be herself. She drifted from soul to rock, sang in smoke-filled clubs, and slowly began to lose her voice in the endless nights and silent mornings. A nameless loneliness crept into every recording. A packed schedule, endless meet and greets, and applause from strangers never made her feel real. And so, like a defense mechanism, Natalie turned to things that dulled the silence in her mind, the kind of things people use to escape reality, blur memories, and fall asleep just a little easier each night. By then, the mansion once hailed as her fresh start had become a place no one dared enter. Friends came and went, never staying long. Gatherings had no music, no jazz, just dim lights, drawn curtains, and conversations no one remembered the next day. Natalie often couldn't sleep. She would sit for hours in the basement studio without singing a word. Some nights, she collapsed in a chair still wearing her stage gown, eyeliner smudged, with a darkness inside her that seemed to stretch without end. And in those very years, while the world thought she was living her peak, Natalie was silently unraveling. There was no dramatic accident, no tabloid scandal, just a woman slipping deeper into a life she wasn't even sure she had chosen. One night, a neighbor saw her carrying her son to the car, hands trembling, eyes red from crying. Only then did people start to understand that the mansion was no longer a sanctuary. It was a maze of lost dreams. And from that place, built to begin again, Natalie disappeared. No one heard her sing. No albums were released. The basement studio remained locked for years. All that lingered was the faint echo of a voice that once melted hearts, now only resonating inside the fading walls of that house. But what no one expected was this. In the midst of what felt like the end, behind that locked studio door, Natalie was quietly preparing for one final return, not for fame, but to sing to her father. In 1991, when the world assumed Natalie Cole had vanished into darkness, she returned, quietly, without announcement, with one singular duet. Unforgettable. With Love was an album that hushed the world, not for its technique or prestige, but because for the first time, people heard the voice of a daughter singing beside the father who had been gone since she was a child. Her voice trembled in the first verse, then soared in the chorus, as if her entire life had been a plea just to hear her father answer her once. The album won 3 Grammys, topped every chart, and crowned Natalie as a legend, but only she knew that the real reward was something far more private. A late embrace, imagined. Yet when she stepped off stage, no one waited behind the curtains. No family, no lover, no companion. The Beverly Hills mansion was still where she returned, but the once vibrant rooms had fallen silent. Photos of her and her father still hung on the walls, but pictures with her son were hidden in drawers. Natalie went through 3 marriages, each one a hope that maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have to come home alone anymore. Her first husband was Marvin Yancey, life partner, musical collaborator, and the last person who truly tried to keep her from losing herself. They married in 1976. Soon after, their son Robert was born. In those early years, Natalie was still a rising star, building on Inseparable's success, appearing on television, touring nationwide. But inside, she was suffocating, under her father's shadow, the critics' expectations, and unspoken dreams that never called her name. Marvin understood the fatigue. He kept writing songs, recording with her, singing lullabies to their son, while Natalie disappeared into late-night studio sessions or simply lay motionless behind a locked door. He believed that with enough patience and love, she would return to being a mother, a wife, an artist. But then came the summer of 1979, something Marvin would never forget. That day, Natalie had drifted off on the sofa after playing an unfinished track on repeat. The house was eerily quiet. When she woke and didn't hear her son, she walked to the backyard and froze. Robert, just over 2 years old, lay face down in the pool, motionless, soaked, one tiny hand curled loosely as if he had waited too long for his mother. She plunged into the water, pulled him out, screamed for Marvin, and held their son for hours without speaking. Robert survived, but the incident was the final tear in a marriage already riddled with fractures. Marvin didn't leave right away, but he withdrew. They spoke less. Natalie buried herself deeper in the studio. The backyard was locked for good, and in 1980 they divorced. Her career continued, but only by momentum. New albums came, but lacked the soul of before. Her second husband, Andre Fisher, was a renowned drummer who had worked with the greats. He came into Natalie's life when she was trying to live clean and find peace. At first, she thought this might be the only time, and the last time, she could be loved without having to prove she was enough. But Andre wasn't Marvin. He didn't have the patience for her silences, didn't understand how someone could radiate on the red carpet and then sit in the dark for hours without a word. They didn't argue much, because Natalie chose silence. Until one morning, she woke up, walked into the kitchen, and saw his coffee mug missing. Half the closet was empty. Andre had left. No note, no goodbye, no explanation. Her third husband came years later, when Natalie thought she was strong enough to love again, calm enough to build a home after everything. But that relationship too ended quickly, like a melody that never got the chance to rise. There was no grand wedding, no echoing vows. Just two wounded souls trying to warm each other, only to find they were still shivering in solitude. He left before anyone even remembered his face, like a breeze that wandered through winter. Natalie didn't cry. She didn't keep a single photo. And after 3 marriages, the only thing left wasn't a hand to hold, but a mansion so quiet it chilled the bones. In the end, Natalie Cole didn't lack love from fans. What she lacked was the simplest thing: someone patient enough to stay. She once said she wasn't afraid of being alone. What she feared was singing and realizing no one was truly listening. That every song she wrote, every sleepless night, was just her singing to someone who no longer existed. And while the world celebrated Unforgettable, Natalie sat alone in her basement studio, the same room that had witnessed the years she wanted to disappear. She played the recording again, hand resting on the speaker as if to touch her father's shadow. That night, a neighbor said they heard the piano, not from a stereo, but from within the house itself. And someone was crying for a very long time behind the closed wall. The dream of earning her father's approval had finally come true, but in return, Natalie Cole had never truly lived like an ordinary woman. Even if she sang Unforgettable 1,000 times, she could never return to age 15, could never redo the final night her father was alive. And nothing, not even a Grammy, could replace the moment when a child stood at a funeral, clutching her dress, whispering, "You never heard me sing." After years of silence, avoiding the stage, the press, and all questions about her past, Natalie reappeared, seemingly calm, leading many to believe she had recovered. No more alcohol, no more scandals, no more nights lost in the darkness of the basement. But it was all surface. Inside, her body had begun to decay, wounded by decades of silent damage, until, during a routine checkup, the doctor said she had hepatitis C. No need for a second test, no time to verify. The result was clear. The virus had been in her blood for years, perhaps from a late-night performance, a forgotten hotel room, a night she injected herself just to silence the voice repeating in her head, "Nat King Cole's daughter doesn't get to be weak." The illness wasn't random. It was the cost of all those nights Natalie traded health for a few hours of escape, clarity for the feeling of simply existing without judgment, the right to step outside the mold her father left behind, a mold the world admired, but she never could. And when the doctor said, "We need to prepare for a kidney transplant," Natalie just nodded. No questions. Because in that moment, she knew. The sentence had been passed long ago. Her body was only now beginning to speak it aloud. That transplant happened in 2009, giving her a few more years to breathe freely. But it also stripped away the last illusion of rebirth. Her voice no longer soared. Her steps were no longer strong enough to tour. Her eyes no longer held the light to keep an audience. And when everything had fallen away, she stepped off the stage. For real, with no promise of return. More painfully still, the Beverly Hills mansion, once alive with overnight recordings, the chaos of her carrying her son out to the car in panic and whispers to her father's photo at the stairwell, was sold without fanfare. No cameras, no headlines. The rooms once filled with perfume and jazz were now giant silences where no one dared walk without feeling they were stepping on things left unforgiven. She moved to a smaller apartment, plain, deep in the city. No piano, no studio, no one calling her name when she got home. No more late-night knocks with a new demo, no more jam-packed tour calendars. Only the ticking of a clock and mornings spent pulling back curtains to a street full of strangers. She lived quietly, and the only person who visited often wasn't an industry friend or a devoted fan. It was Robert, the son she had almost lost. The boy who nearly drowned while his mother wandered, lost in a daze, now a quiet man who never stopped watching over her. And then came the cruelest blow. 2 years after Natalie's death, one August afternoon in 2017, Robert Yancey was found unresponsive in his apartment. He was only 39. No one knew how long he had been gone. No one was there in his final moments. No hand held his. No voice called him back. On the table beside the couch, they found an old photo frame, a picture of him and his mother at the 1992 Grammy Awards. The frame was cracked, the glass clouded with dust, but Natalie's eyes in the photo still glowed, as if saying something no one had the courage to hear anymore. Natalie wasn't alive to witness that final heartbreak, but had she known, perhaps her heart would have stopped all over again. And so the circle closed, from a legendary father to a daughter never allowed to be herself, to a son who never left his mother, yet was never able to stay. After Marlena Shaw passed away, the small house on the slope of 167 Hillwood Terrace in Yonkers was immediately sealed off, in accordance with state protocols for deaths without a clear legal heir. A plastic tarp was stretched across the front door, marked with a faded red warning, "Authorized personnel only." For days afterward, no one showed up to claim the estate. There were no calls to the city government requesting a copy of the will, no letters sent to City Hall to verify any blood relations. The house sat in silence, as though the world had forgotten the woman who once stood beneath the bright lights of a Las Vegas stage. Her property records were transferred to the local probate office. After 3 weeks with no family contact and no valid will located, her estate was officially classified as unclaimed under New York civil law. That meant every item, furniture, personal belongings, even the mailbox with unopened letters from the previous year, now fell under the city's jurisdiction. A cleanup crew was dispatched early on a Monday morning in late June. The team of 4 arrived with ladders, toolboxes, voltage meters, and inspection cameras. Their first task was to ensure the electrical system had been fully shut off. Then they removed flammable items, cleared spoiled food, and began sorting through what could still be salvaged: furniture, porcelain, books, framed artwork. Personal items too closely tied to identity, handwritten letters, clothing, photographs, were collected in a sealed container to be destroyed if no one came forward within 90 days. Upstairs, the bedroom still held a faint trace of old perfume in the air. A sky blue dress hung loosely on the closet door, never worn for its final occasion. And in the corner of the room, a microphone on a brass stand still faced the bed, as if waiting for someone to sing. But this time, no one would be singing again. Now, amid the glittering lights and endless parties of Beverly Hills, there still stands a mansion, quiet as though time itself forgot it. Though it was sold before Natalie's death, the house never truly had a new resident. The buyer, a real estate investor, attempted renovations, put it up for lease, even tried to flip it at double the price. But strangely, every deal fell through at the last minute. Visitors said something felt off. An electrician who once worked in the basement refused to return, claiming he heard piano music, despite the house having no power for years. The house wasn't torn down, nor was it lived in. It was left behind, curtains untouched, the once sparkling pool now full of leaves. The basement, Natalie's private recording studio, sealed off like forbidden ground. The mansion she once called her home after music had become a frozen memory block in a city that never sleeps, as if someone's soul still lingered, refusing to leave. It wasn't until 2020, when the Beverly Hills mansion changed hands once more, that anyone imagined it still held remnants of the past. Empty for years, once listed but never lived in long, the new owner, a developer, decided to renovate the entire ground floor for lease. In the expansion blueprint, the foundation over the old basement studio was marked for removal first. As workers began pulling up the aged tile flooring, they uncovered a fake concrete layer poured over a sealed hollow space, narrow, about half a meter deep, with no known entrance and no mention in the original blueprints. At first, they thought it was an unfinished wine cellar or equipment storage. But when they opened it, what emerged stopped everyone in their tracks. Beneath the old cement lay a large wooden box covered in a faded purple velvet cloth. Its edges were hand-carved, simple, bearing one single inscription in shallow cuts. Not to be found, but never to be forgotten. Inside was an old, yellowed tape recorder, its reel still inside. A pair of tiny child's shoes, slightly moldy around the soles. A few vintage family photos, blurred but still recognizable. Natalie holding her son near the pool, her father behind a piano, and one photo where no face could be seen, just a Steinway in the living room with a spilled glass of wine across the lid. And at the bottom, a diary tied with string. Its cover was worn, its pages yellowed, but on the first page was a line written in delicate, trembling script, like the whisper of a soul never heard. I never forgot, even though no one ever asked. No one on the team dared read further. The owner turned everything over to the estate attorney. But one worker, who secretly snapped a photo of the journal's contents, later said the pages held no glamour, no lyrics, no tales of glory. Only soft confessions of a mother who once watched her son nearly drown, of nights Natalie whispered her father's name into the studio darkness before erasing the tape, and of the chilling realization that her entire life had been spent trying to be heard, yet not once had anyone asked her, "Are you okay?" That hidden chamber was sealed in concrete again after everything was archived. No one wanted to stay. No one wanted to know more. And the tape recorder, to this day, remains untouched. Somewhere within that house, perhaps, there's still a voice no one has ever heard. And now that you've walked through this entire journey, maybe there's only one question still echoing in your chest. Is there any pain greater than spending your life singing to millions, but never once hearing someone ask, "Are you okay, Natalie?"